If you're looking for pound the best home health and beauty fragrance products, you need to go to ashkickin.com.
Hi, you're watching Dante's Vaccination.
Okay, so Abel, so let's go ahead and get into it. Dante's Vaccination, what's going on, guys? You know, the same day I reported that Gennady Golovkin's promoter, Tom Loeffler, was trying to justify them fighting a guy that wasn't a middleweight, wasn't ranked in any of the organizations, hasn't fought in 2 years, and his last fight was a loss. And that is the man you're looking at right now in these pictures. That's Vanes Martirosyan. When I made this video and reported this news on the 12th, that Tom Loeffler said it makes sense, quote, it makes sense to fight this guy. Why? Oh, because he's from LA and he's already training right now. This is pretty much what Tom Loeffler said. I reported the news. Coincidentally, the same day I reported this, ESPN's Dan Rafael, surprisingly, he went in on Team Golovkin for the suggestion in the attempt to secure a fight with Vanes Martirosyan. Let me go ahead and quote exactly what ESPN's Dan Rafael had to say about this news. Dan Rafael's first tweet was hashtag Triple G Martirosyan equals raw sewage. And then he tagged HBO in the tweet, as you guys can see at HBO. And then he went on by saying, and shame on the WBC and WBA for agreeing to sanction Triple G versus Martirosyan when Vanes hasn't fought for 2 years, is coming off of a loss, and is not a middleweight. Hashtag raw sewage. Good chance Triple G will be stripped of the IBF belt for fighting Martirosyan. First things first, I want to say I commend Dan Rafael for going against his best interests, because he's been known for being one of Golovkin's biggest advocates. He's been one of Golovkin's biggest allies since day one. Now, I don't think some of you guys can even grasp the severity of this situation for Gennady Golovkin, when even Dan Rafael is coming out and speaking the truth on this quote unquote hashtag raw sewage of a fight when it comes to a possible Vanes Martirosyan as Golovkin's next opponent. I mean, once again, to really understand what Dan Rafael just said, it's equivalent to HBO's Jim Lampley basically telling Gennady Golovkin on his TV show, why won't you fight, or asking him the question, why won't you fight Andre Ward? You said you'll fight anyone from 154 to 168. So Andre Ward is pound for pound number one, the best fighter in the world. Why won't you fight him? Why are you fighting Marco Antonio Rubio? That fight is nothing but raw sewage. Imagine if Jim Lampley would have said that about Gennady Golovkin. That is damn near analogous to what Dan Rafael just said about one of his allies. I commend Dan Rafael. I commend Dan Rafael. I mean, once again, you guys have to understand, and coincidentally, I use Andre Ward as an example for a couple different reasons. For one reason, the one thing that Jim Lampley and Dan Rafael have in common is they were both very critical of Andre Ward. In fact, when I gave you guys that example of Jim Lampley pressing Gennady Golovkin, the funny thing is that's exactly what he did to Andre Ward. When Andre Ward returned to the sport after a 2-year layoff, HBO pressured him into fighting Sergey Kovalev and fighting a 3-fight deal to move up and wait to fight him, at least according to Andre Ward's trainer, Virgil Hunter. And when Andre Ward first returned, he did Jim Lampley's TV show, and Jim Lampley and Michelle, whatever her last name is, they basically interviewed Andre Ward, and they started to ask him, why won't he fight Kovalev right away? They actually had the nerve to ask this man, why do you need 2 fights before you fight Kovalev? But the funny thing is, the lady who was interviewing Andre Ward on Jim Lampley's show, before she was asking him why he was so inactive, like that was a bad thing, like that was his fault. So she goes from criticizing him for being inactive to then saying, why won't you fight Kovalev right away? Why do you need 2 fights? And I'll never forget this. I remember Andre Ward said, what's the rush? What's the rush? I mean, I just came off of a layoff, et cetera, right? So like I said, Jim Lampley and friends, they were highly critical of Andre Ward. And so was ESPN's Dan Rafael. Because not only did Dan Rafael not cover Andre Ward's fight when he fought against a very tough, undefeated Cuban fighter, Sullivan Barrera, who was the #1 contender, right? And he was a real #1 contender. He was a threat to Andre Ward, a quote-unquote inactive Andre Ward, if you will. So Dan Rafael, he didn't cover that fight, but coincidentally, he did find time to cover the Golovkin versus Willie Monroe fight, in which Dan Rafael said at the weigh-in the day before the fight that Willie Monroe really has no chance, right? So he was at a fight where Sullivan Barrera had a serious chance, who was trained by Abel Sanchez at the time too, had a serious chance against Ward, but yet he covered a fight where he believed Willie Monroe had no chance. And to go even further, when Golovkin fought against Kell Brook, Dan Rafael, he traveled to the UK to cover that fight. But when Errol Spence traveled to the UK to fight Kell Brook, Dan Rafael was nowhere to be found. But you know who was there? Spending his own money to fly, hotel expenses, Uber, et cetera. Dante's Boxing Nation was there to cover that fight when Errol Spence was fighting against Kell Brook. So I say all this to say, regardless if Dan Rafael doing the right thing comes around like an eclipse, or if he wants to join the new media movement, whatever it is, I commend him, because at the end of the day, the fact that Dan Rafael works for ESPN, he has leverage. What he says, it definitely holds weight because he works for ESPN. So for him to send that message directly to HBO and say, this fight equals raw sewage, that was no doubt felt and heard by HBO. You guys see how all of the pressure of people talking about that failed test by Canelo Alvarez, you see how it kind of forced Nevada State Athletic Commission to do something about it, to at least make it seem like they were doing something about the situation, to where they end up eventually suspending Canelo Alvarez? It was because all of the pressure that was put on them, right? So when Dan Rafael says something like this to HBO, once again, this has HBO scratching their head saying, man, even Dan Rafael is criticizing us even thinking about hosting a Golovkin versus Vanes Monterosian fight. I said it in my video when I did that video on the 12th, and I reported this news about Golovkin possibly fighting a guy who's not even ranked, who's not even a middleweight. When I made that video, I said, HBO, they have the power to stop this. They have the power to suppress raw sewage. I said in that video, HBO can easily step in and say, no, Gennady Golovkin, you're either gonna fight a top elite fighter or you're not fighting on the network. I said that in that video. And once again, Dan Rafael, the same day I reported that and said that, he just said something that basically corroborated what I said, which is HBO, they should be ashamed of themselves for making this fight come to fruition. He didn't say that in the tweet, but he tagged them in it. He said the WBC and the WBA should be ashamed of themselves. But the notion and the fact that he tagged HBO in it, that says it all. Raw sewage at HBO. You know, loyalty is a good thing. Loyalty is always a good thing, right? I mean, when it comes to your friends, if you're a PR for someone, if you're someone's lawyer, then there's nothing better than loyalty. But when you are a boxing reporter or any reporter, you're forced to choose. You're forced to pick one, either loyalty or the whole truth. And don't get me wrong, no matter which one you choose, there's gonna be backdraws. But the difference is the backlash you may get for speaking the whole truth. You know, no matter how many rocks are thrown at you, no matter how many times you're called racial slurs or whatever the case may be, you know that they were upset with you for telling them the truth, right? If you hate the rain and I tell you, guess what? You know it's raining on Saturday, and you start cussing me out and calling me every damn name in the book, guess what? I walk away guilt-free because I told you the truth regardless if you wanted to hear the news or not. Now, when it comes to loyalty to your favorite fighters, that puts you in a very, very difficult situation. Why? Because you're going to be in a situation where you're going to have to defend them no matter what they do. You're going to have to keep making excuses for even things you know deep down doesn't make sense. You have to be loyal to your gang, right? I mean, if you're part of a gang and they say, hey, y'all, we got to go over here and do this drive-by at this funeral. I know we done already got the target, but the job is not complete until we shoot up the damn funeral. Now, and if you part of that gang, you're going to be sitting over here saying, now, this is wrong. This is completely wrong. But hey, if they tell me I got to do it, I got to do it. And I damn sure ain't going to say to nobody, y'all know we wrong. Y'all know we going to hell for doing this. All y'all know this, right? You're not going to say that. Why? Because you're loyal. Because you're loyal to the gang. Regardless if you guys are right or wrong, you're going to sit there and try to defend your gang. No different than the mob, right? If you part of the mob, you know, you part of the mafia and they tell you, you got to kill this man right here. And maybe you knew that guy. Maybe you knew him for 5-6 years. He ain't never done nothing wrong to you. But you ain't going to tell the mob that that's wrong. You ain't going to tell the boss that that's wrong. You're going to go ahead and you're going to do it. You're going to be loyal. But see, loyalty has its limits because especially in the sport of boxing, what happens is eventually the person that you're being loyal to, he ends up contradicting himself so much, he becomes radioactive, which means if you're standing too close to him, he can bring you down with him. And what I mean when I say he can bring you down with him is you become guilty by association, meaning it becomes extremely difficult to defend a man's actions when he is doing things that are extremely hypocritical. Like Gennady Golovkin having a #1 contender by the name of Sergey Derenyevchenko, who is a Ukrainian fighter and is a very good fighter. He was one of the best amateurs in the sport of boxing when he was fighting. Matter of fact, Golovkin knows him very well. He knows his reputation, right? And coincidentally, this is the guy that Golovkin does not want to fight when Golovkin usually always fights his mandatories. Golovkin has never, guys, and I repeat, he has never pushed a #1 mandatory to the side so he can face weaker competition than his actual mandatory. So once again, when all of this is taking place and Gennady Golovkin is deciding to fight Vanes Martirosyan, it puts a reporter like Dan Rafael and any other reporter in a situation where eventually they're going to have to stand up and say, hey guys, this is wrong. You know, this is not good for the sport of boxing. This is not a good look for HBO, because if you don't say something, then you look biased by not even reporting it. Team Golovkin today, I would say they did one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen in the sport of boxing. They hosted a press conference, and I'm quoting when I say this. Tom Loeffler said, the announcement is there is no announcement. So they basically did a press conference just basically telling you guys, we're in the same situation today that we were in yesterday. We don't know what the hell we're going to do. We don't know what's going to happen, right? You had some reporters that were asking questions like, you know, are you guys in a situation where you may get stripped if you don't fight against Darren Yevchenko, your number one contender? Now, I thought this was really ironic. It was really funny that no reporter said, why won't you fight your number one contender? Instead, they would ask questions like, well, do you think the IBF will allow you to, not fight the number one contender and fight someone else? Do you think they're going to take your belt, et cetera, et cetera? No one pressed Team Golovkin and asked them, why won't you fight this guy? Now, I'm going to tell you something right now. If Gennady Golovkin was on the coincidental list, they would have damn near crucified Gennady Golovkin for not fighting against his number one contender. Matter of fact, if he was on a coincidental list, they would have crucified and put so much pressure on Golovkin, he would have been forced to fight Andre Ward. Do you guys remember the pressure that they put on Adonis Stevenson when he wasn't fighting Kovalev? And keep in mind, it's two sides of that story, because there was a time when Team Golovkin turned down that fight, but there was also a time when Adonis Stevenson didn't take the fight, right? But when Adonis Stevenson was to blame, Jim Lampley and every other media member, I remember because I was on a phone conference call with Adonis Stevenson when he was supposed to fight against, I forget the guy's name. What's the African kid's name he fought? Sakio Bika. Yeah, Sakio Bika. I remember once again, all the questions was asking Adonis Stevenson, why won't he fight Kovalev? Why won't you fight him? Why won't you fight him? Question after question after question. It got to the point to where Sakio Bika's people, they got upset and said, there's no reason for us to even be on this damn conference call. This is offensive. Everyone's talking about Kovalev, right? So they pressured the hell out of Adonis. Why won't he fight Kovalev? But when it came to this press conference where Team Golovkin has an announcement to announce nothing, no one was pressuring Golovkin. Why won't you fight Jamal Charlo? Why won't you fight Danny Jacobs in the rematch, as close as that first fight was? Why aren't you fighting Darren Yevchenko? He's your mandatory. Isn't he up in rotation? Why wouldn't you fight this guy, but you fought Dominic Wade when he was the same IBF mandatory that Darren Yevchenko is today, Golovkin? Why was there no one asking these questions? Because these reporters are picking and choosing loyalty over the whole truth. They are picking loyalty over journalism. Because journalism is supposed to be about asking the tough questions. You guys already know when it comes to the NFL and the NBA, they ask those athletes real questions. And they don't care because it's not so personal in NBA and the NFL. In boxing, a lot of these reporters, they have their favorites. And once again, they are choosing loyalty over journalism. But the fact that you have someone like ESPN's Dan Rafael, who is using the same talking points that I use over here new media. That shows you guys and proves that this message is resonating. And I tell you guys all the time, man, you can throw the truth in a jail cell. Throw away the key. That truth is going to find a way to break free. And today, even Dan Rafael's ESPN, he got bit by the truth bug. Like I said, man, you can only defend someone who's not doing the right thing for so long, and eventually the pressure becomes overwhelming to where you're gonna be forced to just say, okay, let me just tell it like it is. And that's not good for Gennady Golovkin. I've been telling you guys for quite some time, the walls are closing in on Gennady Golovkin. He's running out of excuses to face the best competition. He only wants the Canelo Alvarez fight. This is something else I wanted to say. You know, because Tom Loeffler also said in that press conference, because they kept asking certain questions, and it kind of forced Tom Loeffler to tell the truth and basically say, look, we're trying to secure this Canelo fight. We're trying to wait to see what happens April 18th, which is now tomorrow, on Wednesday. We want to secure that fight against Canelo. So translation is, we don't want to fight against top level opposition, because why? We may end up losing, and then we lose out on the Canelo rematch money. This is what Tom Loeffler said. But see, the problem with him being that honest is he basically just said, we're not doing this for the fans. We're not here to please the fans. We're not trying to put on a fan-pleasing fight. We don't want big drama. We don't want Mexican style. We don't want anything that's going to jeopardize our Canelo Alvarez check, right? So if Team Golovkin don't care about the fans getting to watch a good competitive fight, like a playoffs type of game, a Super Bowl type of game, if they don't care about the fans getting that, why are fans trying to defend Gennady Golovkin fighting someone that no one wants to watch him fight, including his biggest ally, Dan Rafael from ESPN? If they're making this obvious that these fights are for Golovkin, they're not for the fans. Because nobody has been craving and clamoring about Golovkin versus Vanes Martirosyan, right? So once again, if they are making it clear that this is not a move that is for the fans, why is there any fans out there that are defending Gennady Golovkin's actions right now? And that is a rhetorical question. It is simply because deep down, Golovkin fans, they would rather Golovkin fight the easiest competition to secure his O, right? As long as he remains undefeated, they don't care how soft the opposition is. They don't care if Golovkin continues to fight the Vanes Martirosyans, the Adamas, the Marco Antonio Rubios, as long as he stays undefeated. You know how we know this is true? Because when Gennady Golovkin fought against Willie Monroe, no fan stood up and said, this is BS. Why is he fighting Willie Monroe? Why is he fighting Adama? Why is he fighting this guy? But they said that coincidentally when Andre Ward wanted to fight him. Then all of a sudden, no, I don't want to see that fight. What has Ward done to deserve the fight? Same thing with Charlo. What has Charlo done to deserve a fight with Golovkin? He ain't fought no one, right? Same thing now when it comes to Darren Yevchenko. Oh, he only has 12 fights. Meanwhile, in the same breath, these fans will tell you that Lomachenko is pound for pound the best fighter in the world when he only has 11 fights. You know how many fights Leon Spinks had, the former heavyweight champion of the world? You know how many fights he had when he beat the greatest Muhammad Ali? He had 6 fights. He was 6-0. And you know how many fights Muhammad Ali's opponent right before he lost to Leon Spinks had? A man by the name of Ernie Shavers. He had 60 fights by way of contrast. So, I'm just debunking a lot of excuses that the fans use. Keep in mind, this is not an excuse that Golovkin used, okay? That's something else that doesn't make sense. And once again, this is why loyalty will get you in trouble a lot of times. It forces you to contradict yourself. Because whenever you are making excuses that the guy you're defending is not even using, we have proof that you are being extremely disingenuous because of your loyalty. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one. What's going on, y'all? Brooklyn, New York. It's going down. This is how we do it. On to the next one, y'all.